It's time now to check in with our team at the World Economic Forum in Davos, where political, humanitarian and business leaders are all mingling in the snowy Swiss Alps. Our business editor, Kate Moody, is standing by. Kate, over to you.
Well, Eve, we do have record levels of snow here in Davos this year, and according to many assessments, record levels of optimism about the upwards trend of the global economy. Also, perhaps record levels of anticipation for Friday's star spot. Donald Trump expected to become just the second sitting U.S. president in around 20 years to come address this gathering. He is, of course, coming off a legislative victory with his tax overhaul, a slight blemish with that temporary government shutdown, and very much a protectionist message that runs very much against the globalist bent that we do tend to hear here at the World Economic Forum. Now, to discuss this more, I'm joined by Nariman Behravesh, Chief Economist at IHS Markit. We've been hearing a lot of sunny prognoses for the year ahead. Let's take an opposite view at it. What could throw that off course?
Well, I think there are two or three things that could do that. One is if, let's say, it's the global economy is too hot, in a sense, ironic to say it perhaps, but if it's too hot and inflation goes up, then you could see central banks around the world start to step on the brakes a lot harder. That could derail things. But the other is what you hinted at, which is that if there's protectionist policies, if there's a trade war, that could definitely do a lot of damage to the U.S. and its trading partners. So I think of policy mistakes is probably the biggest risks right now.
Now, a year ago, of course, we were waiting for the inauguration of Donald Trump. 12 months on, we're hearing a lot of talk about his trade policies, but he hasn't perhaps made as many concrete steps as we might have expected. Do you think his bark was worse than his bite?
Well, as you say, the good news is that he has not done that much in terms of actions on trade policy. The actions that have been taken are, in fact, tax cuts, deregulation, which have been very good for growth. So the hope is he will continue to talk bad talk, however you want to say it, but not do anything. So the hope is, as you say, that his bark is worse than his bite on trade. On other issues, I think he has followed through.
Now, when we look more closely at his tax overhaul, we're seeing the first effects coming in as companies start reporting their fourth quarter results. How long do you think we're going to be seeing the effects of this tax reform?
Well, they could go on for some time. In terms of repatriation of profits like Apple just did, I think that's going to happen over this year because it's a temporary reprieve. But in terms of the broader corporate tax cuts and their effect on, say, capital spending, I think that could go on for a number of years. So our best guess is it will add maybe 0.3% to growth for the U.S. economy this year, next year, and 2020.
Why do you think the American president has made this perhaps surprising decision to come to Davos this year?
I think perhaps it's an attempt to reach out to the global audience, to talk to some of his counterparts, perhaps to sort of lower the level of the rhetoric a little bit. That's the hope, at least.
There's also a lot of focus, of course, on the speech by the French president. He's due to be addressing the World Economic Forum on Wednesday afternoon. What's your assessment of Emmanuel Macron so far? What do you think he's going to be saying to the global elite?
Well, so far, what he's done has been very, very positive, very promising in terms of a much better business environment in France. And I think to the extent that he has done a lot, then he can lead by example, if you will. So I think that's some of what we'll see with Mr. Macron.
You're a veteran of the Davos circuit. Very briefly, what do you think is different about this year?
Well, it's certainly the most optimistic mood that I've been in the 10 years that I've been coming. So this is very, very good. And I think that optimism is justified because growth is strong and it's broad-based, which is very important.
Nariman Behravesh, thank you so much for joining us on France 24. We'll just take a quick look at the markets after another record-breaking session on Wall Street. The Asian indices have all closed up over 1%. Japan's Nikkei up at its highest level in 26 years. The European markets have just opened, also all in the green. The DAX leading with gains of about 0.8% this hour. I'll be back with another check of the markets and the day's action from here in Davos later on today.
Okay, Kate Moody there, our business editor, reporting for us from Davos. Thanks indeed for that. And we look forward, of course, to all your updates throughout the week there from Switzerland.